All right, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. This is Trucking with GG. Good to have all of you in here. We're sitting here waiting in line at Purity Dairies to pick we're delivering here on our load before we go to the house. We're just waiting on him to come get us. There's a truck in the dock, and when he pulls out, we're going in. The title of this video this morning is going to be Lease Purchase. Are you ready? So, you've been a company driver for a little while, and you probably work for a large company that offers a lease purchase program. And they're enticing you with these numbers and things telling you that you're going to make all of this money, you're going to make so much more than being a company driver. Well, the truth is, in rare instances, yes, you will make more money than a company driver. A lot more money than a company driver. But the truth of the matter is, you're going to be making about the same as a company driver. You are not going to have insurance. You are going to be assuming all of your tax liabilities. Self-employment tax is more than regular income tax. So, I'm hoping that you just take these things into consideration before you make that jump. Now, everybody's finances are their own business. And, you need to make sure that your overhead at home can support you going a week or two without a paycheck. Because inevitably, something is going to go wrong in that lease purchase, and you're going to end up going without a paycheck. When you first start up, most people come in with no credit, no down payment, and they're undercapitalized. They have no money in their savings account to tide them over. Now, a lot of these companies are generous with you, and they give you, a couple weeks without a payment or etc. And hopefully, you need to take these things into consideration, seriously, because I've been there. That truck goes down with a DEF problem, and you're going to be in the shop for a minimum of a week. That's a week without any revenue. You may have to pay a deductible on your warranty. There's a lot of scenarios to consider. If you take home time for more than 2 or 3 days a month, you're going to be in the hole when you come back out of home time. So that's another thing to consider. Also, you need to look at how you're being compensated. Most of them are by-the-mile leases, and where the company keeps a lion's share of all of the money and you assume all of the risk. Then you have these lease purchases that are percentage-based leases. They're a little bit better, depending on who you're leased to. Now, I know that there's some people that work for a company out in California that are doing a lease purchase with them, and by their claims, they seem to be doing very well. There really hasn't been a lot of hard evidence to support that yet, but we're just going to stand by and see what happens. There's a lot of people that do these leases through Quality, where they can actually take their trucks and move them on to another carrier if they're not happy. And there's a few carriers there with Quality, not so many as there used to be, but there's a few of them there that, let you pick your own freight. I think that most people are lured in by a lease purchase because it's easy to get into, and they're taking the shortcut to a dream of being an owner-operator. At least that was what I did in the 3 lease purchases that I did. North American Van Lines, Dart Transit, and lastly, Jim Palmer. I'm hoping that when you go into these leases, that you have at least a little bit of business knowledge or are good with numbers, because if you're not, you're going to fail. You need to have a basic knowledge of income versus expenses and how to handle things. So, that being said, we need to look at how you're compensated or how your deductions are taken out. Now, Dark Transit, whom I was with, their deductions were taken out on a daily basis, but also they didn't have a set pay period. You settled whenever you wanted to settle. So there were ways to work that around so you didn't end up being in the hole. Like when I would go home, I would hold my trip back that I did going home and settle it after I came back out, and then I wouldn't be in the hole. You have some lease purchases out there that charge you by a mile. John Christner comes to mind. I think Riverside Transport is another one that does it that way. So, you got that to consider. The advantage to the pay by mile or the expenses by the mile is when you do take home time, you're not penalized as much. But depending on how you run, it takes you longer to pay the truck off. If you're taking a lot of home time. If home time is very important to you and you have to do it a lot, I would not consider being a lease purchase. Another thing about lease purchase is you may think you are independent and don't have to do what the company says. You better read your contract. And they'll still try to dictate to you. When I was with Jim Palmer, they tried to dictate my fuel mileage to me. They tried to dictate where I fuel. They tried to dictate this and that. They were constantly over monitoring you because they were used to people coming into their program that do not have any experience. So they felt like they had to babysit somebody with, at that time, 24 years of experience. They felt like that they needed to babysit. Well, that's not good. And, I'm going to make a video about them later on, exactly what is going on, why I left them. And, so there's a lot of risk involved in lease purchases, and that's why there's a lot of failures. Some people, and this may hurt some people's feelings, some people just are not cut out to lease a truck and be a businessman. And they can't admit that to themselves. They're trying to take a shortcut. My suggestion to you, if you're considering a lease purchase, get on YouTube here and listen to some of these actual owner-operators that own their own trucks. They're very smart. They know what's going on. And my advice to you is don't listen to somebody that's only got a few months of the lease purchase. Find some folks that have several years doing it, or they're on their first or second lease. I managed to complete 2 leases with Dark Transit, so I pretty much have a grasp on how it works. And with any company, you just got to learn to work those fuel discounts. You got to learn to work the pay periods. You can't be taking out a lot of cash advances and things like that. And my advice to you is get that truck paid off and go out on your own. Find somebody else to lease to. If you're leased to somebody that's forced dispatch or dictating your loads to you, you're going to fail. Because no matter what, they're making their money. And you're assuming all of the risk. If you don't make any money that week, rest assured you that they did. They still made money off of you that week. If you ran 2,500 miles, I guarantee you they probably made about $2,500 off of you if you're in one of these dollar per mile situations. You ran 2,500 miles that week. You made $1 something a mile. By the time you take out fuel and truck payments and maintenance and everything, you probably ended up making less money as a company driver. So these are some scenarios that you just need to take a hard look at and talk to your spouse. Ask your spouse, if you have one, can we handle this? Can we afford to go without a paycheck in our home? So this is a scenario that you need to take into consideration. I'm not going to go too much longer on this video. I just want you guys to really think about it because I've seen the failures. I've seen the failures at Jim Palmer Trucking. I talked to one driver over there that was $5,600 in the hole because they brought him over there on the illusion that he was going to be getting $5,000 to $6,000 a week in revenue, and it ended up not being that way. There were some loads that he was eating 600-mile deadheads on, to pick up a $2 a mile load that, on 600 miles, they ended up having 1,200 miles in a 1,200 miles in a $1,200 load, and you can't live like that. I know for a fact when I was there, my cost of operation was 87 cents a mile. So in order for me to pay the truck and pay myself, I couldn't move that truck for less than $1.30 a mile. It's just how it is. So to recap, you need to make sure that you can afford to go a week or two without a paycheck. Read everything that you sign. Have an understanding of how the dispatch works and whether you're forced dispatch or not, or whether you can turn loads down. And lastly, don't go into a lease purchase if you can't afford to do it, because it's just going to end in heartache. Well, I'm going to sign off now. God bless each and every one of you, and be safe out there on those roads. There's some crazy people out there. And I'm 1010 and back quiet.